Greetings, Henry.
Are you happy here?
It's not worth a damn. If I had any choice, you wouldn't see my heels for dust.
Well, what's happened? Did you two get yourselves into trouble?
A fine friend you are, assuming it's our own bloody fault.
Oh, come on. You know what you two are like. I had to ask.
Well, perhaps with that monk. But now, the foreman's got it in for us. If he could, he'd skin us alive.
Always forcing you to work, is he?
If only. That wouldn't be so awful. But nothing we do is good enough for him. There's always some reason for him to yell at us.
I can imagine.
You know what it's like. We do too little, and it takes us too long, and what we eat's worth more than the work we've done, and it's no fun listening to that sort of shit day after day.
And the miller won't stick up for you? I would have thought all the yelling would drive him mad.
Not really. He trusts that loudmouth bastard more than us. He's got us down for a pair of parasites.
I see.
What's so stupid is the mill really needs us. They haven't had any hands here for quite a while, and the mill needs a lot of fixing. But with them around, we can't even get to work.
And you definitely don't... You don't ever provoke him?
I've already told you once, he's an arsehole. I'd say there's nothing we can do about it. If he wants to yell at us, he'll yell at us.
Have you tried talking with him?
What do you think? But that just sets him off. He starts saying we're practically bandits, and what he's going to do about it. That gets Fritz going, and he starts yelling too, and...
I'd never have guessed he's like that.
Well, get a job here as a hand, and you'll soon see.
And what does he do during the day? Does he work with you?
Good one. He keeps his eye on everything, but his hand only touches the saw when the miller shows up, which isn't that surprising.
Why?
The last time he did anything, he almost took his thumb off with a chisel. I wouldn't put an axe in those paws of his either.
So, he's clumsy and arrogant. That's what you said about your last master, that Nimoy.
Aye, but at least you could sneak away from old Nimoy for a bit. No chance of that around here.
And what do you want to do about it? Just run away?
Actually, I'd like to stay here, at least for a bit. I never would have thought I'd like working in a mill, but not with him around. It's unbearable, and there's no one I can complain to. But you could.
Me? Do you think they'll listen to me?
They did once already, didn't they? They hired us because of you. You could have another word with them.
Back then, making promises was enough. Now, it will be worse.
You can forget about the miller. It's Thomas you need to convince. The miller takes his opinion seriously. So, will you do it for us? Again?
Fine. I'll try and talk to him.
I'm glad. But try not to get on his wrong side. You won't get anywhere with him then.
I'll keep that in mind.
Good luck then.
I feel quite hungry.
Henry, I'm glad you came. Glad to fucking see you, Henry.
Matthew told me your foreman's a fool, and you're not exactly filled with Christian love for him.
You better believe it. I'd like to pay him back for everything and drown him in the river.
Drown him? What's he done to you?
It was the first or the second day here. We had a disagreement and I told him off. And then, all of a sudden, we're fighting and that fucker just throws me in the river. I nearly drowned.
Well, how did you get out? I thought you couldn't swim.
I can't. They pulled me out. I was up to my waist in water.
I see. Well, I'd be pretty fucking angry too. So you want to pay him back?
Exactly. I don't give a shit about anything around here, but that bastard's in need of a good trouncing.
What about the others at the mill? Are they awful as well?
The miller's an old fool. He believes every word that comes out of Thomas's mouth. It's hopeless. And then there's the miller's daughter. She's a pretty lass. and kind with it. And what can she do? Nothing. Not that it stops Matthew going to see her. But Thomas is the root of the problem.
Do you think he's jealous? Is she a sweetheart?
He might make puppy dog eyes at her, but most of the time he just struts about like a peacock. I really don't think she's the problem.
And what do you want to do about it? Do you think you can come to an agreement?
No fucking chance. Matthew hopes so because he likes it here. It's true the work's better than the mines, but the play's worse.
So how do you plan on dealing with it? Leaving?
Perhaps. But first, I want to give Thomas a proper trouncing. I mean a real thrashing.
And you think that will help?
Maybe. Maybe it'll knock some sense into that fat head of his. Or he'll be too frightened to mess with me.
That might help.
So why don't you arrange a fight with him? If we win, he'll leave us alone. Oh, we could...
What?
We could lure him off someplace far away and then wait for him. Maybe to play dice with Lawrence. He would have to go through the dark woods.
I'll think about it.
You incapable cretins.
I still want to ask you more about Thomas.
Take care.
God be with you.
Are you happy with your new workers?
They're good carpenters, but someone constantly has to stand behind their backs and keep an eye on them.
Really?
Yes, yes. When I'm there with them, everything goes smoothly. But the moment I leave, I hear Thomas yelling at them.
I've heard.
I don't know what I'd do without Thomas. He keeps an eye on everything for me now. The mill wouldn't function without him.
Well, but Thomas has problems with carpentry.
You're right. You should hear him cursing when he has to turn his hand to it. He knows he'll never be a real miller.
What, just because of that?
No. He's not too skilled at handling the water wheel and the mill run either. He can wield a shovel well enough, but otherwise I have to keep telling him how to do things.
So he's not been foreman too long then?
No. My son used to run the mill, but then his wagon overturned with him inside it. It'll be a year ago now, come spring.
I'm sorry.
Me too, boy. And after Martin was gone, the other workers left and only Thomas stayed. I don't know what I'd do without him.
What happened that day? Wagons don't overturn themselves.
He was transporting new stone blocks for the mill and he had to take a detour. Since the wagon was too heavy for the ford, it was after a downpour. The load must have slipped and the whole wagon fell on him. I pray it was quick.
So he was alone, with no one to help him.
Of course not. Thomas was there too. He helped Martin to load the wagon in Sasser and both of them set off back.
Just the two of them? No one else was there?
No, they always did it that way. Martin didn't like dragging people where it wasn't necessary, when they could be doing work elsewhere. But if I had been there with them, maybe he'd still be alive. Thomas couldn't pull the wagon off him. He ran for help, but it was already too late.
I'm sorry. But I'm sure he's in God's kingdom now.
He was a good boy, a kind soul.
Have you been without carpenters for a while?
A long time. Since winter, it's been just me and Thomas.
Nobody stays around?
No. These days, it's hard to find a man you can rely on. Young lads today are bone idle. None of them wants to do an honest day's work.
And how many have actually worked here?
About half a dozen, maybe more. We always put up with them till the most urgent work was done, then sent them packing.
And what about Jane? Shouldn't she have a husband by now?
What are you trying to say?
A pretty girl like her is ripe for marriage.
With a large dowry because she comes from a mill? Well, she had herself a man once, but he ran away during the winter. He wasn't up to the work either.
And how long did he last?
You know, he was here for a while. But back then my son was a foreman and he was a kindly soul. Too kind. He never threw anyone out.
So, everyone started leaving when Thomas took over?
Well, Thomas is a dog on slackers. And just as well. Maybe it's harsh, but that's what you need nowadays. If we don't mill, folk don't eat.
So, the moment Thomas became mill foreman, everyone started running off? Not one man could stand it here, even if they had a chance to marry Jane. Don't you think Thomas might be doing it on purpose? Sounds to me like he's after the mill, or your daughter, or both.
That's not like him. He's a good man and straightforward. He knows I can always send for a new mill foreman.
And Jane?
Don't worry about her. She'll wed whoever I approve of, even Thomas if he asks for her hand. At least with him, I know he won't leave the mill.
Indeed, why would he, once he's got rid of everyone else?
That's enough. I don't know why you're trying to slander Thomas, but I don't mean to listen to it any longer. Good luck to you.
I heard what you asked my father. You can't expect help from him. He's none too sharp these days.
Can you help me?
No. Nobody listens to me. But I wanted to say that Thomas does do it on purpose. He did it the same way before.
Why?
Because he's afraid if someone comes who's more skilled, Father will notice and give his job to the newcomer.
And your father lets him? Can't he suppose?
He probably could, but he doesn't want to. My brother was the mill foreman before him, but last year a wagon overturned on him, broke his back. It broke my father too. And Thomas was here the longest. He was always close to my brother, so Father chose him as the mill foreman.
And Thomas doesn't listen to anyone? Can't you persuade him?
No. He keeps looking my way and tries to be nice, but he doesn't care what I've got to say. When I tell him something, it goes in one ear and out the other.
And this probably won't end well. And what happened to your brother?
And what does that have to do with this?
I don't know. You mentioned it, so I was just wondering.
There's not much to tell. A stone block that was loaded wrong, slippery ground after rain, and when the wagon overturned on him, there was no one around to help.
What do you mean, no one? Surely he wasn't alone.
No, he had Thomas with him. But Thomas couldn't lift the wagon off him, and by the time he found help it was too late. And as if that wasn't bad enough, someone robbed my brother while Thomas was looking for help.
Someone robbed him after he was dead?
I don't know, but they took a mottled scarf which I gave him as a keepsake. He laughed when I gave it to him. He said it would make him look like a fop, but he still wore it all the time. And someone must have thought it was worth stealing.
But who'd steal a scarf?
Why are you asking me? When they brought him back here, he didn't have it. That's all I know.
I'm sorry about what happened to him.
Me too. But it was his own fault. If he'd brought more people with him, he'd still be alive. He was too kind for his own good.
I understand.
God be with you.
I heard you were with the miller's son when the wagon fell on him.
What of it?
I just heard some talk and I wanted to get the story straight from you.
Talk? From who?
I heard some gossip about it in the alehouse. What happened? Was it really lightning that scared the horses?
What? No, there wasn't any storm. It was just the road was muddy, and so we rode closer to the edge of it.
It's a real stroke of bad luck, isn't it?
Tell me about it. If I'd been behind the wagon, it would have fallen on me too.
Why did only 2 of you go?
He always did it that way. But 2 people are enough for the trip, and if we needed an extra pair of hands, we could always find some local.
Except at the end. If there had been more of you, he might have survived.
Do you think I don't know that? I couldn't move the wagon on my own, so I went looking for help. We'd met a few travelers along the way, and I ran to find them, but it was too late. The weight of it crushed him while I was gone.
I'm sorry.
Me too. Me too. I didn't want to be the mill foreman, but the last thing he ever said to me, the very last thing he ever asked of me, was to take care of the mill.
And I heard someone robbed him.
Robbed? What kind of nonsense is that?
I heard he was missing something when they brought him back.
What? I don't remember anything.
He had a scarf with him.
Really? I don't know. Maybe he lost it on the way. Or it sank into the mud. Yes, that's probably it. It's still buried there somewhere.
Well, I hope he's resting in peace.
Amen.
So what do you think about the workers I brought you?
If I hadn't put in a good word for them, the miller would have thrown them out by now.
It's good they have someone to look out for them.
God be with you.
So, did it work? Is your home free of the ghost?
Oh, you're here, are you? You're lucky I didn't have to get you myself. No, it didn't work. The spirit came just the same as before, and I didn't sleep a wink.
So you're saying I won't get my reward?
You get paid for results, my dear, and I haven't seen any yet. At least now I know that old wives' law doesn't help. Go and see Apothecary Coniash in Ratai. I hear he's familiar with all manner of magic.
Fine. I'll go and see the apothecary. Hopefully we'll come up with something that works. Yeah. Yeah. know anything about getting rid of wandering souls?
The wrestler's dead? I might know a bit about that. It depends who wants to know. I wouldn't want to be accused of heresy.
Oh, come now, Konyash. You helped me once before, so I'd like to ask you for something again.
Fine, you're right, Henry. I won't lie to you. I'm interested in occult teachings and a bit of alchemy. It's far more than just old wives' tales. I truly believe it's a science. So what exactly do you need?
To help a village woman from Ledechko. Her neighbour's ghost has been haunting her. He visits her every night.
You don't say. Now this is interesting. Revenant spectral beings, cursed souls from beyond the grave?
Yes, exactly. Her house is haunted.
To put it vulgarly, my lad, to put it vulgarly. But there are spells that can banish restless souls back to the realm of the beyond.
Now that's what I wanted to hear. And do you know the spells?
Well, I'd like to learn at least one. But the only book I know that contains them has been classified amongst the Libri Prohibiti.
I've no idea what that means.
The spell's written in a forbidden book. A book that's in Latin and kept under lock and key in the monastery. It's called Liber de Mortuis, Necronomiconos. Do you need to know any more?
Do you want me to steal the book?
If you want to get rid of that revenant, you have no other choice. When you bring me that book, we can cast the spell together, since you don't know Latin.
Fine. I'll bring the book.
You'll find it in the monastery library. But it won't be easy to get in. Truth be told, I don't know of anyone who is able to break in and out without getting into big trouble.
I'll try.
Hey.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. May I help your attention? Sir, a word if you please.
What is it?
I'd like to challenge you to a duel, sir. A little amicable combat.
Why would I want to fight you?
Ad honorem, friend. For honor. For the thrill of combat.
Well, if that's how you look at it.
So, shall we cross swords?
That sounds interesting. But what shall we fight for?
Ah, so chivalry alone is not enough to tempt you.
No, sir. I'm drawn to more, glittering bait.
I see. Well, why not? Let us make it more interesting, then. I'll tell you what. I have a fine suit of armor, a horse and a sword I won at dice. The horse and sword I can use, but the armor doesn't fit me well. I'll bet a piece of armor against a reasonable sum of groschen.
I don't have that much coin on me.
You're the one who wants a wager, friend. I'm still willing to fight you for honor alone, if you so wish.
Sorry, I don't have time for it.
No matter. My apologies for keeping you. Godspeed. Yeah. 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 Yeah.